There have been countless villains throughout The Simpsons, with some going missing, others becoming cult legend, and some even living long enough to become a hero.
Feel the crumbling fist of justice.
Ouchers. Oh dear.
However, today we're looking at every Simpsons villain that got what they deserved. Starting off with the grifter of all grifters, Mr. Lyle Lanley, who we're introduced to in the season 4 episode Marge vs. the Monorail, when the town of Springfield is having a town meeting in order to discuss how they should spend the $3 million that they've just fined from Mr. Burns.
In a moment. First, let's review the minutes from our last meeting.
Get to the money!
Get to the money!
Get to the money!
And after a few sensible suggestions, as well as, of course, Mr. Burns trying to get his money back in a disguise.
Anyway, I say we invest that money back in the nuclear plant.
I like the way Snrub thinks.
Well, this is when Lyle Lanley slithers in, as he pitches Springfield the incredibly expensive monorail. And boy, does Lyle really sell this hunk of junk, as not only does he manipulate the entire town by playing on their hatred of Shelbyville, but then Lyle even gets the entire town to break out in spontaneous song and dance in order to seal the deal. And when Mr. Lanley is eventually questioned by some of the more intelligent members of Springfield, well, this is when he turns on the charm offensive and manages to escape any accountability.
Young lady, that's the most intelligent question I've ever been asked.
Really?
Oh, I could give you an answer, but the only ones who'd understand it would be you and me. And that includes your teacher.
And so, with the entirety of Springfield now fooled, Lyle Lanley is finally safe to take off with his millions of dollars, whilst leaving the residents of Springfield with an incredibly dangerous and faulty monorail. Or so it seems, as it turns out that this is where Lyle Lanley finally gets what he deserves, as whilst Homer is busy saving Springfield from disaster, Lyle's plane has to make an emergency stop in Ogdenville, which unfortunately for him just so happens to be a town that he had previously swindled with his monorail scam.
North Haverbrook, where have I heard that name before? Oh no.
Oh no!
There he is! Seat 3F!
And as you can imagine, the very, very angry people of Ogdenville were more than happy to get their hands on Lyle Lanley, which thankfully means that Lyle can never terrorize Springfield ever again. And moving on, our next Simpsons character that got what they deserved is arguably one of the most iconic one-off Simpsons characters, with this, of course, being Frank Grimes, who we're introduced to in the consensus best ever episode Homer's Enemy, after Grimes is hired by Mr. Burns at the power plant and quickly realizes that Homer isn't exactly too well qualified to be working in such a dangerous environment.
I'll handle it. That got it.
And what starts off as mild annoyance quickly turns into flat-out resentment and jealousy, as we see that when Frank Grimes is invited by Homer over to the Simpson household, rather than being appreciative of the invite, Frank Grimes instead goes off on a tirade about how Homer doesn't deserve any of the things he has.
And do you deserve any of it? No!
What are you saying?
I'm saying you're what's wrong with America, Simpson.
And if this is where the feud ended, then it would honestly be hard to call Frank Grimes a villain. But after this point is when Grimes becomes truly nasty, as he tricks Homer into signing up for a kids power plant model building contest, with the intent of this, of course, being to humiliate Homer.
Tell Mr. Burns I've gone home to work on the contest.
However, much to the annoyance of Grimes, not only does Homer win this contest, but he also receives heaps of praise from everyone in the plant for doing so.
Way to go, Homer!
You're number one, Homer.
But this was a contest for children!
Yeah, and Homer beat their brains out.
And it's here in the episode that Frank Grimes would finally get what's coming to him, as after manically running around the plant pretending to be Homer Simpson, Grimes would then grab onto a high voltage electrical wire with his bare hands, which, I mean, of course, just immediately causes him to be electrocuted and pass away, with Homer and the rest of Springfield even having the last laugh at Grimes' funeral.
Change the channel, Marge.
And swiftly moving on, our Nick Simpsons character that got what they deserved is none other than Fat Tony, who for 22 seasons was Springfield's most notorious mob boss.
You see, my wife, she has been most vocal on the subject of the pretzel monies. Where's the money? When are you going to get the money? Why aren't you getting the money now? And so on. So please, the money.
And from bribing the mayor for favors, destroying Marge's pretzel business, and overall just being a menace to society, it truly seemed as though Fat Tony would rule over Springfield forever. However, this would all change in the season 22 episode Donny Fatso, where after Homer is facing 10 years in prison for attempting to bribe law enforcement, well, then he realizes that he doesn't want to go to prison, and decides to cooperate by infiltrating Fat Tony's gang.
Everyone knows Fat Tony, so we're gonna plant you in the prison with a disguise and a new name.
Can I be Johnny Undercover?
Well, that's a little obvious.
Okay, Melvin Mafia.
No.
And honestly, this all goes a little too well, as Fat Tony immediately accepts Homer into the mob before becoming incredibly heartbroken when Homer reveals that he's been working for the FBI the entire time.
How could you, Nicky? I would have given you everything. In the strip club of my heart, you held the key to the champagne room. I loved you, man.
And it's here that after years of terror, Fat Tony would finally get what he deserves. As after Homer reveals that he's an informant, Fat Tony would then have a heart attack and die before being replaced by his brother, Fit Tony. And carrying on, our Nick Simpsons villain that got what they deserved is Artie Ziff, who for decades now has lusted over Marge Simpson after being her date at the high school prom.
Oh, really? I mean it. Now stop it.
I'm sorry, Marge.
Take me home, Artie.
And boy, Artie has stopped at absolutely nothing in order to win Marge back. I mean, hey, this man literally built an entire billion-dollar company called Ziff Corp just to try and win Marge back. However, the thing that truly makes Artie Ziff a villain comes from season 15's The Ziff Who Came to Dinner, where in an incredibly sneaky move, Artie puts his now bankrupt and debt-riddled company up as collateral against Homer in a poker match. And literally seconds after Homer wins the hand of poker, the SEC breaks all of the windows and sends Homer straight to prison.
I did run Ziff Corp into the ground, and this man took me into his home when no one else would. And now, as a result of his brilliant card playing, he's the one you want! Tape his mouth so he can't deny it!
Although, unlike many of the villains on this list, Artie Ziff's karma for his misdeeds actually takes place over several years, as he firstly gets arrested in this same episode, where he's not exactly well received when he gets to prison.
Oh look, there's a whole bunch of you! Squirt, squirt, squirt! That's it, circle around me. Squirt, 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 squirt. Oh, I'm gonna need more water.
And then years later, we find out that Artie Ziff is still a complete loser, as despite building infinite robotic Marges to try and love him, even these robots that have literally been programmed to love him can't even do so.
Oh, fine. What about you two?
Power save. 1% battery. I just don't like you.
And so, in a rather humiliating fashion, Artie Ziff finally gets what he deserves. However, our Nick Simpsons villain got what they deserved a lot faster, with this being Devil Flanders, who we're introduced to in the season 5 Treehouse of Horror episode after Homer says that he would sell his soul for a donut, and of course, with Devil Flanders being the devil, he naturally accepts.
Ooh, I'd sell my soul for a donut.
Well, that can be arranged.
Flanders! You're the devil?
It's always the one you least suspect.
And when Homer inevitably can't resist the urge to finish this donut, well, then he's sent straight to the depths of hell. Although, thankfully for Homer, he has an incredibly intelligent daughter in Lisa, who immediately calls for a fair trial.
Wait, doesn't my father have the right to a fair trial?
Oh, you Americans with your due process and fair trials.
This is always so much easier in Mexico.
And it's during this trial that Devil Flanders is able to convince a jury of his peers that Homer's soul truly belongs to him. And it truly looks as though Homer is going to burn in hell forever, until out of nowhere, Marge brings out a photo album where Homer promises his soul to Marge and only Marge forever. Which, of course, if you've been paying attention, means that Homer's contract with Devil Flanders is now void.
Your Honor, we find that Homer Simpson's soul is legally the property of Marge Simpson and not of the devil.
No.
And thus, with the trial lost, Devil Flanders had to return to hell empty-handed. And swiftly moving on, our Nick Simpsons character that got what they deserved is Nick Callahan, who we first see in the episode Reality Bites, where Marge becomes a realtor and Nick bets that she won't even make it past a week.
I'm going to do my darndest to uphold the principles and ideals this jacket represents.
I give her a week.
However, we would then see Nick Callahan in a far more villainous role in the season 36 episode The Yellow Lotus, where at the beginning of the episode, we see Nick Callahan selling a timeshare scam to Homer and Marge, which upon signing would lead them into crippling debt for the next 10 years.
Oh.
You get a free boombox.
Done!
Oh.
And of course, once the Simpsons finally get to their holiday house that they've been paying off for the past 10 years, the points that they've accumulated are only valid for a 20-minute stay, meaning that Nick Callahan has literally scammed the Simpsons out of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. And if that's not bad enough, when Marge and Homer confront him 10 years later, instead of apologizing or offering to give them their money back, Callahan instead simply boasts that he's now moved on to a much more profitable scam.
Look, I'm not in that business anymore, okay? Now I get people out of timeshare scams.
Is that also a scam?
Yeah, much more profitable.
However, thankfully, Nick Callahan would finally get what he deserves when he's swimming out in the ocean and a wild otter bites him to death.
Oh, it's just an adorable little otter.
So yeah, it looks like Mr. Callahan will never scam anyone again. And so, before we get onto our final Simpsons villain that got what they deserved, here are a few honorable mentions. Starting off with Frank Grimes Jr., who attempts to avenge his father's death in the episode The Great Louse Detective by trying to kill Homer at the Mardi Gras Festival. Although thankfully, this massively backfires on Grimes Jr., as just when he has Homer and Sideshow Bob cornered, Lisa, Marge, and the Springfield Police Unit arrive to place Frank Grimes Jr. under arrest.
The murderer is...
We know, Frank Grimes Jr.
Huh? Precisely.
Take him away, boys.
And our second honorary mention goes to Professor Stefan August, who we see in the season 19 episode That 90s Show, in the flashback to the 1990s, where this incredibly pretentious college lecturer uses his age and pseudo-intellectualism to manipulate Marge into abandoning Homer and being with him.
But Homer's so supportive. He's paying for me to go to college.
He's paying for you, like he owns you. I'm sorry, but that is oppression.
And for a while, this actually works, which causes him to form the band Sadgasm and eventually spiral into a depressive state. Although, karma clearly exists in the Springfield universe, as Marge then quickly realizes that Professor August is completely insufferable and then breaks up with him on the spot in order to get back with Homer.
Oh, Marge, it's statements like that that make people say women are stupid.
It's statements like that that are mean.
Well, it may sound mean, but I'm just trying to help you evolve.
Oh, evolve yourself, Professor Jerk.
And so, for the moment you've all been waiting for, our final Simpsons villain that got what they deserved is none other than Sideshow Bob.
What about that tattoo on your chest? Doesn't it say die, Bart, die?
No, that's German for the Bart.
And with Sideshow Bob undoubtedly being the greatest villain in Simpsons history, well, this entry on the list is a bit different, as Sideshow Bob has gotten what he deserves all throughout his life, as when he frames Krusty, tries to kill Selma, abducts the Simpsons on a boat, attempts to blow up Springfield, tries to kill the Simpsons in Italy, attempts to kill Bart at Five Corners, or even plots with his entire family to kill the Simpsons. Well, all of these plots have incredibly harsh consequences, as Sideshow Bob always ends up torturing himself and then ending up in prison.
Attempted murder. Now, honestly, what is that? Do they give a Nobel Prize for attempted chemistry, do they?
However, in my view, Sideshow Bob's worst punishment doesn't actually come from his imprisonment, but rather his true punishment comes in his lack of success or adoration. As despite Sideshow Bob dedicating his life to being a beloved entertainer, we see in the season 31 episode Bobby It's Cold Outside that not only has Sideshow Bob failed to achieve any of his life's ambitions, but he's now also confined to a lighthouse where he can now hardly land even the smallest roles in local productions.
Role? You're offering me an acting job?
Yes, it's to play Santa Claus at a small amusement park.
Oh, what the hell? It is the lead. I'm in!
And with Sideshow Bob now being hung out to dry, it truly looks as though he got what he deserved. And so, this is every Simpsons villain that got what they deserved. Also, I'm trying to hit 150,000 subscribers, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, and as always, stay happy, stay safe, stay sassy.